My boyfriend cheated on me whilst high on acid because he thought it was me. My partner, 24 male, and I, 22 female, joined our friends on a trip to the beach to try acid for the first time. There were only 5 of us, 2 boys and 3 girls. 2 couples and 1 extra girl. We took the acid while there was still sunlight because apparently it takes ages to take effect, and we spent this time drinking beer near our tents with a campfire going on. Mind you, as we were descending into tripping balls on acid, we were also getting quite drunk. I'm very lightweight, so I didn't have much to drink. My partner, on the other hand, had plenty. When it started to kick, it was fun. It was funny. I felt like the sand was grassy, and I kept hearing Billie Eilish singing in my ear when it was really the wind blowing so hard it was whistling. This is where it goes downhill. Maybe like 4 or 5 hours later, I decided to go on a walk and had 2 friends join me because I couldn't go to sleep. My partner wanted to stay in our tent because he wasn't feeling well. Our other male friend who was coming to walk with me told his girlfriend to stay with my boyfriend so that she could look after him in case anything goes wrong. We thought all was well until we got back. When we returned, first thing I heard was obnoxious moaning and breathing. Me and the others panicked, so we immediately went into my boyfriend's tent, and lo and behold, both naked, someone's girlfriend on top of my boyfriend. I ended up vomiting and passing out on the shore, but I heard a lot of yelling and crying. I woke up being in my tent and saw my boyfriend sleeping next to me. Honestly, I had to really think whether I hallucinated him cheating or that if it really happened. Our other friend's girlfriend had apparently left during the night without letting any of us know, so there was only 4 of us. My partner's excuse was that he genuinely thought that the girl was me. The smell, the eyes, the hair, etc. When I realized it was all real, I just cried and have been crying since. I've never felt so broken, betrayed, confused, and hurt at the same time. I want to make excuses for him and think maybe it was a mistake, but he full-on cheated. 4 years down the drain, just like that. I've been staying at my sister's since we got back, but he hasn't stopped texting and calling me to apologize and said that he's disgusted with himself and he genuinely thought it was me. I haven't spoken to him since, but I'm so tempted to. I miss him, but I'm just so hurt. I'm so confused. Should I break up with him for it? Side note, he'd been planning to propose to me for a month. He apparently made a custom order for an engagement ring to suit what I specifically liked. For context, the night it happened, he said that it was so dark in the tent that he could barely see anything and that the only light source was a campfire behind the tent. He wasn't wrong in that part, but surely you could feel and hear the difference. This girl had a deeper voice than I did and smelled entirely different from me. We have different perfumes. And she was blonde. I dyed my hair straight ginger. Dropping the proposal bomb on me just left me all the more confused and torn. How am I supposed to break up with him when he had been planning this all along? I feel like the a-hole now, even when I know I'm not. He knows I've been waiting for him to propose for over a year now. Our friend was able to get in touch with the girl who was caught with my partner because he went to the girl's house and no one ended up being there. I'll try to break it down as best I can, starting with my partner whom called off work to come to me so that we could sit down and talk about it once and for all. From his perspective, while being in the tent alone, he couldn't tell whether he was asleep or not. He thinks his eyes were open, but it wouldn't make a difference whether he blinked or stared into the abyss. He said he was really dizzy but really hyper, but then also really tired and all those feelings made him nauseous, but not to the point where he needed to throw up, just enough for him to feel the need to lie down and relax. He said he heard the tent open, but he didn't react because he naturally thought it was me. He said, "You going to bed?" As the girl he thought was me just plummeted herself onto the sheet next to him. He couldn't recall whether he heard a response, but he said that he felt a kiss on his arm. He went in to spoon her and say goodnight, until he felt a kiss on his lips. He kissed back and it progressed from there. He said he consented with his body as he thought it was me, but not because he was hallucinating, but because he couldn't see anything. He had his eyes closed most of the time because he couldn't see anyways, apparently. Then they got naked and she straddled him. They didn't have intercourse, but instead they were just dry humping naked. He said he couldn't even feel anything, as if no one was on top of him. Then the tents were ripped open and he thought it was just her closing it behind her, but it was us. Then he saw us and got really confused. This was when he thought that maybe he was hallucinating, hence the no reaction. He thought that there was no way he could see me outside the tent when I was straddling him naked. Then the guy started yelling, the girl got off of him, and he went out of the tent naked. He said he forgot he was naked and got so confused as to what was happening. Then he saw me vomit and then pass out. The whole time our guy friend was yelling at him, he carried me back into the tent and stared at me for a good minute. He looked at our friend who was yelling and asked if this was real. Then he realized it was. That's when he started getting agitated, stressed, and started crying because he realized he just cheated on me. Then the girl disappeared and they didn't notice until the guy stopped yelling to ask the girl what she was doing on top of him. He told me that the girl never spoke, only moaned. He thought it was me as we had similar hair length and was confusing her eyes from mine whenever he got a glimpse of her in the light. I gave him a hug when he finished explaining. We were both crying at this point, still are. I asked him if he needs help reporting this girl to the police, and he said no. He said that he thinks she confused him for her partner too, and I said there's absolutely no way that happened when she could see her boyfriend across the shore walking with me. He said that he didn't feel assaulted because he was reacting to it with the same energy, but that it was definitely weird finding out it wasn't me in the end. We were both relieved that we talked about it, and it genuinely felt like he was telling me the truth. I've known this man for 5 years. He physically cannot lie. As for the girl, buckle the F up. We finally heard from her and our guy friend, and apparently she'd been MIA because she was in the effing hospital. She got her phone taken away by her mom. Our friend went to the girl's house because he was sick of waiting for a response and no one ended up being home. He then got the mom's number from the neighbor they were close with and called her, and then was able to speak to the girl. Really weird if you ask me. Her own mom told her friend that she was home safe, but she'd been in the hospital this whole time. She said she left because of how disgusted she felt when she realized what she'd done. She said that she just wanted to lie down but confused our tent to be theirs. When she heard my partner say, "You going to bed?" she said that she thought he said, "No sex?" and immediately heard her boyfriend's voice inside of mine, as in confused my boyfriend's voice to be her boyfriend's voice. So she initiated a small kiss, and when he reciprocated, she was reassured that it was indeed her boyfriend. Completely forgotten about the fact that he was 20 footsteps away from her. Completely forgotten that she was asked to watch my partner in case anything happens. And so, when she realized what she'd done, she left without saying anything and took an Uber home. Then jumped out of the moving effing car because she thought the car wasn't moving and that the car wasn't moving because she was home. She ended up fracturing her arm, staying longer in the hospital for suicidal ideation. I think she's going to be fined for endangering herself and others while being high on acid. She did end up saying that she accepts whatever happens to her, whether we report what happened or beat her up, etc. Our friend said that she sounded very remorseful and worried for all of us, especially my partner and I. She said herself she thinks she assaulted him because she was the one who had initiated it. We're waiting to hear more from him about her, and now he's on his way to visit her. A lot about it is very unclear to us still and doesn't add up. Needless to say, I'm both relieved and horrified to have heard both parties' perspective. We'll continue to work on this and probably need therapy. We were irresponsible and really stupid. We thought the beach was an awesome idea for the solitude, silence, and the view, but we didn't factor the darkness and consequences for drinking and taking acid at the same time.
I lost my virginity to a homeless man. So I'm 21 years old and I have this job working at this office, and not gonna lie, I was not treated the best there. I worked with some girls who are not very nice to me, and a lot of the times I would eat lunch by myself. So one day I go to sit on this bench that's right by where I work, and I sit down and I see this guy who's playing his guitar, very attractive, and I keep coming back and I notice that he's there a lot. One day we're out there and it starts raining, and we both go under this gazebo so that we don't get wet, and he's kind of chatting with me, and I find out that he has a dog, and that is where he tells me that he actually is homeless and he sleeps under this bridge most nights. So I'm getting to know him a little bit, and I come back the next day and the next day after that, and I just keep trying to interact with him. And one day I buy him something to eat and his dog, and we just chat for a while where he tells me he chooses to live this way, all this stuff, blah blah blah. He has a very charismatic personality, and he's just really fun to talk to, and he's wanting me to be adventurous with him and just skip work and hang out with him for the day. I'm I can't do that, and there's just a lot of differences between us. Then one day I come out for lunch and I see that he's kind of hunched over, he's not being his normal self. He says he has a really bad migraine, and I'm oh, I can go get you something. He's don't worry about it, it'll pass. And so I go back to work and I go home and I try not to think, but all night I am worried that he is going to get seriously hurt or just not be feeling good. So I put some pain pills that I had got when I got my wisdom teeth taken out. I bring him something to eat and something to drink, and I dress really cute because I guess I'm trying to impress him, and I go down there. At first he's you can't come down here at night, it can get kind of dangerous down here, you should go home, blah blah blah. I'm I just wanted to check on you. And he thought it was very nice that I brought him something, but he did inform me that he is a recovering addict and he cannot take the pain pills that I brought him, but it was very nice of me to do that. Throughout this time that we've spent together, I realized that I just really like him a lot. He's not like anybody I've ever met, and while I'm there hanging out with him, he's you should probably go, and I'm what if I don't want to? Then he starts kissing me, then things go a little further, and I did not inform him that I was a virgin. So I kind of freaked out after it was all over because I just I don't even really know this guy that well, don't know if he has something. We didn't use protection, so I'm freaking out, and I just dip right after. And I don't come back to see him for over a week because I'm just panicking on the inside, just about everything, can't believe I did that, all this stuff. He leaves me a little note kind of by the office where I work, basically saying let's talk, he misses me, come back and see him, blah blah blah. And I want to, but I'm scared, and my best friend invites me to go out to this bar that night, and I'm you know what, instead of going to see him, I'm just gonna go to the bar. I get to the bar. It's supposed to be this double date between me and my best friend and these two guys, and I noticed that the band playing, the drummer, is the guy. It's the guy. He comes up, swaggers up, interrupts my date, and basically is can you give me a ride home? And obviously we're not gonna divulge all his information to them, and I'm yeah, absolutely. After that, we talk a lot, we hang out a lot. I know him, but I feel I don't know him, and there's just kind of some weird things about him. Things that just don't really add up. And then I missed a period.
Story time of when my best friend of 8 years flew to visit me and left after one day and blocked me. This story is wild, but we're gonna have to back up a little bit. So me and this girl were virtual friends for the past 8 years. We FaceTimed almost every day, talked about everything, our secrets, our life, literally everything. We had never met in person. I know, crazy. Then she started talking to a guy from my city, and she had been talking to him for a month or so. And then she was like, you know what, I'm gonna come visit you because I've been dying to meet you, and I could meet him at the same time. So it'd be, you know, killing two birds with one stone. I was super excited because we had tried to meet up multiple times before and it just never panned out. So I was excited to see her and be able to, you know, finally meet in person. Told her that she had to come stay with me, that there was no way she was staying in a hotel. She had to stay with me, and she made it clear, she's like, I'm coming for you, not for him, but like, you know, I'm gonna obviously spend some time with him, but I really mainly want to come for you. And I said, girl, don't worry about it, we can share you, no problem. A few days before she came, I went through something super difficult in my personal life, and I was at a very bad place, and I was talking to her about it because she's my friend. She asked me, she's like, do you want me to stay in a hotel if too much is going on? And I was like, no way. Like, especially in our culture, we're both Arab, it's super disrespectful if somebody comes to your city and stays in a hotel. They have to stay with you. And I saw her as like a close friend. I wanted her to be around, and like, my house is her house. She's like a close friend to me. She also had mentioned prior that she checked the hotel prices and they were so expensive. So obviously I was never gonna let her stay at a hotel. So a day or two later she came, and I couldn't pick her up from the airport because I had a mandatory lab that I had to go to, but the guy she was talking to picked her up. So I told her that I could meet her right after class, but she said she wanted to spend the day with the guy and that she would meet up with me later. So she came, met up with me later in the evening around like 8:30, 9 p.m. and she'd been here all day, which is fine. I wanted her to spend time with the guy, see if they hit it off. We went for dinner, and by that point I was getting really exhausted because I'd been up since 6 a.m. at school, so I was so tired. So we went home, we kind of got into our PJs, and just like, I was tired, so I just got in bed right away, to be honest. It was like, I could tell like you're really like in a bad place and like you're not as bubbly as usual. And I'm like, yeah, like, you know, like everything I went through was super hard and I'm just struggling with it a bit. And she's like, yeah, like I hate to see you like this, like you're just so down. And I was trying my best to be as bubbly as I could for her. Like I was trying my best, but like, you know, as my friend of 8 years, like she should be understanding of the fact that like, you know, shit happens. Anyway, so the next morning we got up. She's like, what do you want to do today? I'm like, let's go get breakfast, then we can go to the mall, and then we can play the rest of the day by ear, because I know she had dinner with her man later that day. So we go for breakfast, and then we're in the car, we're about to go to the mall, and she tells me, you know what, I think I'm gonna actually book a hotel and leave.
Here is the story of how I found out I was pregnant during basketball season, senior year of high school. Here we go. Basketball season starts in November like normal, right? It's senior year, I'm pumped. I'm ready to break all these records. I'm just more excited than ever. I love basketball. It's always been my sport. Well, we condition like the first 2 weeks, right? Well, I notice I'm like having a harder time keeping up than usual. Running has never been my thing. Not that we do a lot of running, or did a lot of running. And I was sore in places that it was just weird. And I was just having a hard time. And it was very odd. I was like, I'm probably just getting my period, whatever. Then another week or two goes by. I start getting very sick in the mornings. I'm like, huh, that's weird. So one day I stayed home with my sister. I had to bring her to the orthodontist. So while she was there, I ran to Walgreens or something and grabbed a pregnancy test. So I get home, I take the pregnancy test. 2, actually. I took 2 because it was one brand, but it came with 2 different like kinds, you know? Both were positive. Silly me though, texted my boyfriend and was like, hey, they're both positive. I don't know. We can take some more tonight and see. I didn't know how accurate pregnancy tests actually were. So that night, me and my boyfriend went and bought like 6 different kinds of pregnancy tests. And there was probably 2 in a couple of them also. So probably like 10 tests at least. I was watching my little brothers at the time and my parents were home, so we took them all there. Every single one was positive. Every single one. Not even an inconclusive. So what do? We freak out like teenage kids. We tell most of our parents that night, but not my dad and my stepmom because my dad is scary. He's not, but they just also weren't home. So, you know, has to be in person. Spicy. Anyways, I told my mom that night, and then a few days later we went to the doctor and got an ultrasound, and I was 7.5 weeks pregnant. What do? It's the beginning of basketball season. This season was supposed to be like the best season of my career, and I'm pregnant. Spoiler alert, it was not the best season of my career, but it was a fun season. I did play all the way through it. My team went to state all 4 years of my high school career in basketball. And so we went to, when we were at state, senior year when I was pregnant, because I found out I was pregnant at the beginning of basketball season, so I was pregnant all the way throughout. And then at state, I turned 19 weeks. I was almost halfway through my pregnancy at the end of basketball season. Honestly, I don't know a better way for a pregnant girl to stay in shape. It definitely kicked my butt, and I was also I was very sick during my pregnancy, but it definitely kept me in shape. Maybe not so much in shape, but in good health. I don't know. Actually still did get my 1,000 career points, and that was actually pretty fun. Another thing, nobody knew I was pregnant. So that was the kicker. No one knew I was pregnant until basketball season ended. So I had to hide it. Now, I'm from a small town, so how it didn't get out until after basketball season is beyond me. There were a few scenarios where I thought people knew. I don't think anyone ever knew until after the season ended. And we made our announcement post because a couple people started texting me about it, like literally right after the season ended. Quickly posted our announcement post. Well, actually, first we went and told the rest of our family that didn't know, like grandparents and stuff, before they heard from somebody else, because again, we're from a small town. Then we posted the announcement post. The rest is history. Okay.
Am I wrong for canceling my brother's wedding? Make a novel short. My 27 female, brother 30 male, met his future wife 28 Ella at a party 3 years ago. Honestly, we never got along, but I always tried to put up a peaceful front because my brother seemed blissfully happy with her. Ella was mean to me a lot. Like, a lot. She would make comments about my weight, my makeup, and especially my dog. She hated animals and hated that I would bring my lab toast to my parents or my brother's house. It always just felt like something aimed to hurt me. When the two got engaged, she asked me to be her maid of honor since she has no sisters or many girlfriends, and since my brother seemed thrilled, I obliged. What I failed to realize when I accepted the role was that her maid of honor meant planning the entire wedding. Like I was booking venues, florist, jazz band, everything. Even worse, she expected me to put my credit card down for all of it. My brother and her are not exactly well off, and since I have a well-paying job, I didn't mind holding the deposits, but it was starting to add up to a lot. Every time I asked Ella about him, she would say that it would all be paid back by her parents before the wedding. Well, flash forward to last week, about 3 weeks before the wedding, and she's unbearable to be around. She can't last more than a few sentences before snapping at anyone. So when I of course brought up the money, shit hit the fan. I asked if she had received the updated receipt of everything owed when she exploded. She called me a whole line of terrible names, but the one that stuck out was her saying, "What do you need the money for anyway? Your sick dog is dead now." My beautiful Toasty died about a month before this, after he fought the bravest battle with cancer. He was my soul dog and I was devastated. I blinked at her and simply left the room, having no energy to even respond to something so cruel. I went back to my car, and after the 20 silent minute drive home, I parked the car and immediately called the vendors and canceled any deposit under my card. Every single one. After almost 20 calls, all that was left of her wedding was the dress and the flower arc. I texted my brother a short explanation. I told them that every vendor would be contacting him if they wished to keep their services, and they were now responsible for covering everything, and that I would no longer be attending. It was a matter of minutes before my phone started to explode and I just turned it off. It's been a few days and I haven't talked to anyone but my mom, who thankfully understands where I was coming from. My brother has tried to call, but I just feel terrible, both about what I did and about what she said. I know what I did was extreme, but I also couldn't sit by and practically enable her cruelty anymore. I still can't help but feel bad for ruining my brother's big day. So I don't know, am I the asshole for this? I didn't attend my son's wedding. I instead spent the evening with his ex-wife. Quick backstory. After graduating high school, my son moved 3 states away for college. At 19, he married a girl he met. I tried convincing him to wait because I personally felt he was too immature. They both dropped out and moved back here to his hometown. At 20, they had their first child, a beautiful little girl. 16 months later, my daughter-in-law gave birth to their second child, a little boy. After the first baby, my wife and I noticed our daughter-in-law wasn't happy. We both thought it was postpartum depression related. Just after the second arrived, my son and his wife separated. She would bring the kids over for a visit. It was then that she began unloading on us. I know there's 2 sides to every story, but considering I know my son, I believed her. I sat my son down numerous times to speak with him regarding his marriage. He refused to take responsibility, blamed her for everything, even when I directly pointed out where he was the sole problem. They got into counseling, and for a year, things were okay on the surface. Our daughter-in-law filed for divorce. My son, 3 days later, was on Facebook announcing his new girlfriend. A month later, they were engaged. My son had forced his then wife to become a permanent stay-at-home mom at the birth of their first child. She, of course, had no other family or friends here. She knew no one aside from us. She had nowhere to go with 2 small children. Unbeknownst to our son, my wife and I helped her financially and got her an apartment. Before the divorce was even finalized, we received a wedding invitation. I made it clear to my son I would not be attending and they would not have my blessings. His mother told him that she would see to it that I would attend. I stayed consistent in my decision. I also asked him not to bring his fiancée around our house out of respect for the mother of his children. The wedding happened. The night before, my wife gave me the final push. I did not attend. Our daughter also did not attend for the same reasons. My wife picked up our grandkids, got them dressed, and attended the wedding. My daughter and I decided to spend the evening with his ex. I couldn't imagine her sitting alone while her kids attended their father's wedding. She was taken aback that I didn't end up attending his wedding. We took her out to distract her mind. I just wanted her to know that she'll always be considered family to us. My daughter also made a joke they can drop the in-law status and just be sisters now. She was very tearfully grateful. I realized just how badly she needed our support, and specifically on that night. The next morning, my son called to tell me how much of a horrible father I am for not attending his wedding. A few days later, he caught wind that I spent the wedding evening with his ex. He said that was the ultimate form of betrayal, and further, myself and his sister would have to earn a relationship with him on his terms only. Am I wrong for telling my coworker off in public after she announced to my students I was pregnant? We recently found out that we were pregnant. I, 26 female, was terrified as my family has had a rough go of miscarriages. I went to the doctor, everything was okay, but we were still only 8 weeks and things go wrong all the time. That night, my husband, 29 male, came home and said Karen, 63 female, yes, her real name, was digging into him at lunch asking if I was pregnant. He played it off and told her no. Husband and I are teachers in the same building. The next day, Karen came into my class and announced my pregnancy after guessing and no facts. I told her and my class no, just a routine physical. My 7th graders got awkward and pretended they didn't hear. She left my room, and that evening I ran into her at a local restaurant. She kept asking me why I was avoiding her. I said I was upset and needed space. She didn't give me space. I warned her that if she asked one more time, I was not going to hold my tongue. She asked. I went on a rant about how inappropriate it was to assume pregnancy for anyone. If I was pregnant, she stole our thunder by starting a rumor. If I wasn't, she started a rumor that could be painful. I could have infertility issues and struggle to conceive or carry a child. I could have found out bad news at the doctor, or I could have been at the doctor doing biopsies for cancer. In short, she did not know and should not have dug. She scoffed and said, sorry, while walking away. A lady nearby came over and hugged me and said she was proud of how I handled myself. I wish more people of the older generation understood boundaries and praised people for sticking up for themselves. For the next 4 weeks, she refused to talk to me or my husband, talked trash about a program she helped me for and I implemented to our coworkers, and has acted like a child in any regard around us. But I lied to her. We are 13 weeks today. We announced our pregnancy last week, and Karen said she was so excited that she was right and asked if her and I were okay. I said I needed space, but she is constantly waving and in my face asking how I feel. I believe she is doing this in hopes I just get over it. But honestly, I don't know if I have the space to forgive her right now. So, am I the asshole for yelling at her in public and lying to her even when she was right? Am I wrong for calling my boyfriend a lying piece of for not getting me the perfume that I wanted for my birthday? I, 21 female, am really into beauty, makeup, skincare, perfumes, etc., and collect perfumes. There's one perfume I've been wanting for quite some time now, but it's been way out of my budget. I'm a college student working a part-time job at the movie theater, which pays about $13 an hour, and I have other priorities to pay for, so it's taken a while for me to save up. I'd finally saved up the amount I needed and was planning on buying myself the perfume as a birthday gift. I told my boyfriend 20 male this, and he told me to go spend my money on something else and he'd buy me the perfume instead. I told him he didn't have to, considering it's expensive, but he insisted. A few days before my birthday, I asked him if he was sure about buying it and told him again that I had no problem buying it myself. He told me not to worry about it and said he already bought it and wrapped it. I thanked him and figured since he already bought it that I could spend my money on something else. I took my best friend and my younger sister out to a nice restaurant and to the movies after. I wasted more than half the money I saved up, but obviously didn't think anything of it. So on my birthday, my boyfriend gave me a gift, and it was a body spray and bath bomb. I asked him what happened to the perfume, and he told me it was a lot more expensive than he expected and way out of his budget. I got mad at him and asked him why he lied to me and told me to waste my money on something else when he could have easily told me he couldn't afford it and I'd have bought it myself. He called me a spoiled brat and said I was expecting too much from him. I called him a piece of lying and left after that. Got a few texts from him and his friends calling me names and saying I'm using him for money. I also got a text from his mom, who I had a great relationship with, calling me childish for throwing temper tantrums when I don't get my way. I honestly don't see how I'm in the wrong here, but I'm not the type of person to not say sorry if I am. So, am I the asshole? My ex took my daughter's ashes with him after we broke up, and it tears me up inside. I want her back so bad. I'm 25. My daughter was born sleeping, and even though it was 3 years ago, it always looked in the back of my mind as the worst day of my life. My ex, let's call him M, was unsupportive of me my entire pregnancy. He would constantly tell me how he wasn't ready and didn't want to be a dad. He begged me to give her up. As soon as we found out she was sleeping, he immediately started acting like he had always wanted to be a father, just soaking up all of the attention he got from having a deceased daughter. I saw right through it all, of course. Our relationship gradually got worse and worse until I couldn't take it anymore. The house was a mess and he was using our daughter's death as an excuse for everything. Why didn't he have a job? You know how it's been since she died. I can't work. Can he please take the trash out? Sorry, I keep getting flashbacks of Lily. Not gonna do it. It got to the point where he started blaming Lily's death for his abhorrent behavior towards me. He'd yell and scream at me for the smallest things and then say it's just because he's grieving, as if I wasn't also grieving and yet still working to support the both of us. I finally broke up with him last year and it was a horrible ordeal. It was so stressful trying to get him out of the apartment that I didn't even notice he had taken the urn with Lily's ashes in it until a few days later. Of course, I frantically called and texted him, asking if he moved it. He finally got back to me and said, "She's my daughter, she's going to be with me." I yelled at him so bad on the phone. I shouldn't have, but it was too much emotion to deal with. I told him that he was a terrible father and he never even wanted our daughter. And you know what? He just laughed and said I was too crazy to have been a mother anyways. He's since blocked me, and every attempt to reach out to his family to get her back has failed. He moved to an entirely different state. Maybe I'm crazy, but I know one thing. Lily was truly loved by me. Even if she's not with me physically, I'm sure she knows who actually loved her. I can't help but worry about the conditions that my ex is keeping her in though. She's probably in a box collecting dust and it tears me up inside every day. I miss my daughter so much and I can't tell you how much I cried wishing I could have her back. Is there anything I can do? Should I apologize and pretend to be nice so I can get her back?
So I get home from shopping today and my dog doesn't come to the door. And I'm like, that's weird. Maybe she's sleeping. I've been gone for an hour and 20 minutes. I call her a few times while I'm taking my shoes off. I don't hear her little pause. I'm like, oh my God, is she dead? She's 3. I walk into my apartment. She's not in the living room. She's not at the back door. She's not in the kitchen. She's not in my bedroom. She's not in the guest room. Like something is very wrong here. And now I'm like looking like under shit. I'm like, did she crawl under something to die? Frantically calling her name. I have a camera at my front door. So I look at my camera and I'm like, who the fuck broke into my apartment? There's nothing there. You just see me leaving and me coming back. I'm like, what is going on? I run down to my concierge barefoot and I'm just standing there and she's helping someone else. And I just go, excuse me. And the person that she's helping is like staring at me because she's like in the middle of something. And I'm like, someone kidnapped my dog. And they're both looking at me. I'm like, someone got into my apartment and took my dog. I just tore my entire apartment today. I looked in cupboards, my kitchen cupboards. Like, okay, I'm helping this lady first. And that lady had trouble with her washing machine. So that lady very normally was like, no, you can help her first. And she's like, there's no cameras on her floor anyway. I go then pull up the elevator cameras. I was gone for 1 hour. In that hour, someone knew I was missing. So now my mom's on her way downtown. Thank God my boyfriend didn't pick up the phone because he's in Baltimore. So he would have freaked out. I would have just been like, yeah, someone stole the dog. But while I was waiting for this woman to pull up the elevator footage, I start thinking, I'm like, none of this makes sense. And the eerie part is like her harness is at the front door. Her fucking collar is at the front door. Like, how would this even happen? You'd need to know I was gone and then get buzzed up to my floor, which I would have to do, and then steal my dog in an hour and know that I had a camera and duck or something. I was like, this actually makes zero sense. The concierge, call me when you fucking pull up this elevator footage because it was taking too long. I run back up here. I'm on my hands and fucking knees. I'm opening closets that she couldn't possibly have gotten. I look in my bathtub. Let me tell you where this chick was. This dog, who, by the way, won't bark if you pay her, but will bark at the randomest shit otherwise. Screaming her name. She's not making a sound. This is where this dog got stuck, okay? Picture me coming into my apartment. I check in here. I check in here. I check in here. This is where her crate is. She wasn't in her crate. I come in here. I look around. Obviously, I'm panicking. I leave. Then when I came back for the second round, I open this, okay? No, obviously she's not in there. Then I'm like, did she fucking let herself out onto the patio? I open this. When I close it, I see her fucking reflection. Because let me tell you where this dog was. Not here. Here. How was she there? And don't comment on how dusty this is. I know. What the fuck? It was stuck in that. Now, like, again, it's on the other side of the couch. Like,
actually fear I had when her paws didn't come to the door, and then I didn't see. Then I started fucking tripping, guys. Like, I was like, was the dog even with me today? Did I bring her to my parents yesterday and not remember? Like, I was like, something is so incredibly wrong here. Like, am I having a psychotic break? Did I leave her in the car after we went to the park? No. You just crawled into the weirdest spot and got stuck and wouldn't make a fucking noise. And now I know I have to close every door in the... Sometimes I leave my condo door open, which I'm literally never doing again. Because when I go down to the gym or whatever, and I just bring my fob, I'll leave the door open. I'm like, well, who's gonna get up there? And even if someone did get up there, I always have my phone on me, so I'm gonna see if someone like walks in the door on my camera. But now, maximum security in this bitch. That was not worth... I think I just lost 10 years of my life, that stress. I pull her out of there. I had to move the piano bench. She hopped out. She was fine. Fun and fancy free. My concierge calls me back. She's like, okay, what hours do you need the footage from? And I'm like, oh, she's here, which is the first thing she asked me. She said, did you check everywhere? And I said, I checked everywhere. No, I didn't. No, I fucking didn't.